Welcome to the 7th grade. Hey everyone, Lucamus Prime here. So it is time for another review in my reviews for the live action movies of a franchise of Die Wimpy Kid based on the books of the same name by Jeff Kinney. And today I'm going to be talking about, of course, what is the second installment of the films based on the books. And this, of course, is none other than 2011's Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Rodrick Rules, directed, of course, by David Bowers. And this was his live-action directorial debut. So when it comes to this film, So after, of course, the success of the first movie, and of course became a hit in many countries around the world, including Singapore as well, so much so that this one got early released in Singapore before the American release, a sequel, of course, was anticipated if the film was successful, which it was, and the sequel was greenlit by Fox 2000, and filming began in August 2010 in Vancouver, Canada, and the film introduced new characters, of course, from the book, so the most notable of which being Holly Hills, who, of course, is the love interest for Greg, played by Peyton List. The film, of course, was then released on March 17, 2011 in Singapore, and then 8 days later, on the 25th, in the United States of that month. When it comes, of course, to this film's reception, it received mixed reviews from critics, and it grossed $72.4 million. However, when it comes to my reaction to this film, so after I really enjoyed watching the first movie, it gave me interest to check out the sequel afterwards. So on television, I watched the sequel. I think this was like in early 2012. And when I saw this sequel, I absolutely loved it. And this is also easily my favourite Wimpy Kid movie of all time, and always will be to this day. Especially from last night's rewatch, because I rewatched the movie the previous night, and I love the film to this day. I absolutely love it so much. So, now, what is this film about? So back in middle school after summer vacation, of course now starting the 7th grade, Greg Heffley and his older brother Rodrick must deal with their parents' misguided attempts to have them bond. So, now what do I think is great about this film? So, just like the first film, this film has a great cast of actors, So, for example, Zachary Gordon reprises his role as Greg Heffley, the Wimpy Kid himself, and he once again gave a great performance in this as Greg. And I definitely think that Greg had great character development in this trilogy, especially in this film. And I think Zachary Gordon did an excellent job bringing the character in the books to life. I think his portrayal was exactly how I'd imagine the book character to be, because when I read the books, guys, I could definitely picture Zachary Gordon just being an absolutely perfect fit for the role of Greg. And in this film, once again, he gave a great performance. And I also definitely as well once again love the return of Devon Bostick as Rodrick, Greg's older brother. And I think Devon was also, in my opinion, a perfect casting for a role. And Rodrick is also hands down my favourite Wimpy Kid character of all time as well, because he's so hilarious. And Devon Bostick just totally brings the character to life. I think he embodies everything that is about Rodrick, in my opinion. And in this film, he definitely shined a lot. And also, as well, returning is also Robert Kaplan as Greg's best friend, Rowley Jefferson. He once again gave a great performance as Greg's best friend. And like the other characters I just mentioned, there is no other actor I would cast other than Robert Kaplan as Rowley, in my opinion. I personally think he embodied Rowley exactly how I'd imagine him to be based on the books. And also reprising their roles are also Steve Zahn and Rachel Harris as Frank and Susan Heffley, Greg and Rodrick's parents. And like real characters, I think they were also, in my opinion, perfectly cast, and they were great once again in this movie, and really fun to watch. And Frank Heffley, in my opinion, is hilarious, and I also definitely like Susan in this film too as well, because she's a mother who wants her two sons to bond, of course, and no longer be fighting. So I like how she's wanting her two sons to bond, which was great of her to do. And I thought her way of doing it with mum books was pretty funny, I must say. And Rachel Harris, in my opinion, was definitely a perfect casting, and Frank Heffley was so hilarious. And one part of his that makes me die of laughter is when we at first think Greg and Rodrick are going to be in trouble for, of course, removing the bathroom door with no lock on it. But when Frank, of course, comes in, of course, same as something you want to tell me, he then asks them, what was General Grant doing on a thermostat? it was just his little figurine from his army set. Steve Zahn just totally nailed it. He was brilliant in my opinion, perfectly cast. And also turning from the first film is also as well Greg and Riley's classmates, played once again by the same actors. So Grayson Russell came back as Fregley, and while I personally think Fregley's quite a disgusting and weird character in my opinion, I still think that Grayson Russell did a perfect job bringing the character to life in my opinion, just like how the book portrayed him. And Karen Brow was also in my opinion great once again returning as Chirag as well, absolutely. And I definitely love the running gag in this film of the invisible Chirag joke. That was just, in my opinion, hilarious. And I gotta say, the way Chirag got his own back on Greg by disguising himself as Holly was, in my opinion, brilliant. And I'll get to Holly in a second when it comes to new characters. And I also definitely like the return of Leigh McNeil as Patty Farrell. And while I won't deny that she's an unlikable character, a bully, I still think Leigh McNeil did a perfect job bringing the character to life in this. And she definitely captured how I'd imagine Patty to be, of course, as the bully that she is, of course. Who, of course, has a massive rivalry with Greg, of course. And also returning as well when it comes, of course, to Manny Heffley is the twins, Connor and Owen Fielding. And Manny is just like I'd imagine to be played in the books in these films. And I think Connor and Owen did a really great job playing Manny in these 3 films and made him a very fun character to watch. While he's naughty, of course, because he of course gets Greg into trouble, of course, and grasses him up a lot by saying, "Bobby did it." I still think that the twins did a really great job playing Manny in this. And when it comes to new characters, this film, of course, introduces Holly Hills, played by Peyton List, and I think Peyton List gave a great performance in this as Holly, made a very likeable character, and definitely is a character who is also relatable to Greg too in that sense, because similar to Greg, she has a sibling who, of course, is a bit of a bully to her, really, and picks on her and torments her, really. So I like how they made her a bit of like a counterpart to Greg in that sense, which definitely was, in my opinion, good development for her and for Greg too as well. And so the cast, in my opinion, did a great job. And another key factor of this film I do also love is, once again, how this film has a lesson for Greg to learn, because in the first movie, of course, Greg had, of course, the chance to be a better best friend to Rowley. And in this film, of course, when it comes to what he learns, he now, of course, has a chance to be a better brother to Roderick. So I think Greg's development in this film was amazing, in my opinion, and I also definitely as well like the scenes, of course, where he was interacting with Roderick on a more light-hearted manner, really, where he's not bullying Greg. I did like that. So that was really great to see. And I also think that just like the first film, the film stays really faithful to the books as well, which are definitely really good. And speaking of that, what I think is also great in terms of the film's cameo appearances, I love how Holly's dad is played by Jeff Kinney himself in a cameo role. That, in my opinion, was brilliant. I love how he got the author of books to have a cameo in this film, of course, as Holly's dad. That, in my opinion, was brilliant. And I do believe that Jeff Kinney spoke very highly of his films in interviews, so I'm glad, of course, they stay faithful to his books, and they even, of course, include his cartoon drawings that he did, of course, when he wrote the books, which I thought was great. So I definitely love that. And I thought it was definitely brilliant, and I also as well think that this film handles humour, in my opinion, better than the first film, because I personally think the humour in the first film relied way too much on the taught humour a little bit, and was a bit inappropriate, really, I must say, quite disgusting. But I love how in this sequel, however, they made it, in my opinion, much more funnier, and it relied this time on character interactions. So, for example, of course, Greg and Roderick's party, of course, which, of course, you have to clean up in a rush the following day because the parents and Manny are coming home early because Manny was ill. And also the scene, of course, where Greg and Roderick put fake vomits on, of course, Coach Malone's truck. And that was definitely really funny. And when Coach Malone chased them as well. And, of course, as well, the invisible Chirag gag as well. And, of course, Chirag tricking Greg into seeing him, of course. So this one was definitely great to watch because of that. It was definitely brilliant, in my opinion. And I definitely really love the humour in this. In my opinion, it was done a lot better than the first films, in my opinion. So I think this is definitely an example of a sequel which improves from its predecessor. I mean, the first one, in my opinion, is still good. I still enjoy the first movie, of course, but I personally think this sequel improves a lot, in my opinion. And it's definitely, in my opinion, a lot of fun. And just like the first film, the friendship between Greg and Rowley is also once again great, so I must say as well. And I definitely really love this movie. And it was also this film that definitely cemented me as being a fan of Wimpy Kid franchise as well. Because After I saw this film, I found out there was going to be, of course, another sequel coming out, of course, later summer in 2012. Oh, so I was thinking, great, I'm definitely going to go watch that. So, but this film, of course, made me a Wimpy Kid fan and made me interested to go to the cinema to watch the next film, of course, which was Dog Days. And it also made me so want to read the books too, which I did, and I definitely loved them. And upon reading the book of Roderick Rules, I think this film captures the book really well. And in some cases as well, adds things to it, which in my opinion is great for a film to help translate it into cinema. So for example, I like how this film gave lots of chemistry for Greg and Holly, which I thought was great. So I definitely did like that. So I think this film added really good things to the already great book story. And in my opinion, made the film be translated well to a cinema and did a really great job with it. So I really had a lot of fun watching this, and to this day I still do. Like, in my opinion, this is the best Wimpy Kid movie that I've seen, and it's an absolute joy to watch, and rewatching it, I absolutely love it, and I'll definitely go as my personal favourite of the franchise, most definitely. So, I definitely really love this. I think it improves the characters, and in my opinion, the humour is also, in my opinion, better too as well, and it's just so much fun. And I was thinking any bad qualities, well, to be honest, I don't really think there's much of them, really. I mean, I've already mentioned, of course, that Patty Fowler is, of course, an unlikable bully, and also, of course, how Manny, of course, gets away with tormenting Greg, of course, and grasses him up a lot by saying Bobby did it, and all that, really. And also the excuse that he's only 3 when he puts a cookie in Greg's Xbox 360 as well. And I also, as well, think, of course, that sometimes Roderick can be a bit of a jerk too, of course. But then again, you know what, guys? That's how a book portrays him, so I've not really got much of a problem with that, really, because while he's, of course, a jerk, don't get me wrong, it's still, in my opinion, faithful to a book, of course. But speaking of Roderick, though, I personally wasn't much of a fan of Bill, who was, of course, his band member for his band Loaded Diaper. I thought he was a bit silly, in my opinion, and I, of course, didn't like how he backstabbed Roderick, of course, at the talent show where he, of course, revealed to Roderick that he got rid of him and replaced him with a different drummer. So I felt really sorry for Roderick in that scene. Poor Roderick. But thankfully, of course, when they were performing, when of course, Susan gave Roderick permission to perform if Greg did the magic show with Rowley, of course, you know, he was able to get rid of Bill. So I was definitely satisfying, I must say, because Bill, in my opinion, was a bit of a jerk. I mean, I definitely agree with Frank on that when he said Bill was a jerk. And I also think the film has great special effects too, which in my opinion helps the film age really well. I mean, aside from, of course, the product placement of Xbox 360 in this, really, of course, I personally think this film holds up because it doesn't rely too much on current day things of its time in 2011 or any memes back then, anything like that. So, like the first film, I think this film is timeless in that sense because it doesn't really rely too much on things in its time period, really. It just, you know, stays true to a book, which I thought was great. So I did like that. And it was definitely really great. And the special effects were great too as well, I must say. Practical effects. And one thing that I think was very impressive, of course, was, as a fun fact, guys, in the final scene of the film of a talent show, nearly every single audience member in the theatre is actually a mannequin. They're not real. So I don't think that was very impressive. And I found out about this when I read out the book about how they made the movies. So I think they did a really great job, of course, in post-production, how they, of course, replaced them with people they're watching with the visual effects. That was definitely, in my opinion, brilliant. Never would have guessed they were actually dummies in real life. And I definitely admire the dedication we had to this, and I've also got to give lots of props to Devon Bosti because he actually learned to play the drums for this movie too, which is pretty cool. So I love how he's very dedicated to a role of Roderick, and yeah. And that's why, of course, I regard him as an absolutely perfect casting for a role, and I've never imagined anyone playing the role better than him. So, that being said, of course, this is me doing my review for Wimpy Kid Roderick Rules, based on the book of the same name, released in 2011. So, if I was to give this film a score out of 10, guys, because it's my favourite Wimpy Kid movie of all time, aside from those few qualities that I mentioned, I still absolutely adore the film, and I regard it as the best one of the franchise to me, and I'd give it a full-blown 10 out of 10. So, I absolutely love this movie. And of course, next week I'll be reviewing, of course, the third movie. And as far as I'm concerned, that's the end of the live-action films. Because, let's face it, due to cast getting older, compared to books, characters who don't age in like a fleeting timeline, I think Dog Days should have been where we should have ended the films due to the actors getting older, of course. But sadly, of course, we got an absolute trash fest in 2017, didn't we? So, yeah, which I'll be trash talking. But Other than that, though, of course, this me doing my review for Roderick Rules, definitely my favourite for the franchise. So, you know the drill, guys. Be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to tell us in the comments what you guys think about Mickey Roderick Rules. If you've seen it, leave a comment below what you think of it. Also, be sure to join Team Prime by pressing subscribe if it's coming in the future. And I'll see you all later.